Welcome to a new daily top AskReddit video. Today's topic.
What is far more rare than people realize? Bit of peace and fucking quiet. To the motherfucking men. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Shush. Stop yelling. Solid brown fur cats. Apparently it's some kind of recessive gene in them. Also, brown eyes. They're common in big cats but quite rare for domestic cats. Northern Lights. The amount of people I've heard say, "We've come all this way. What time do they come on?" is staggering. Born and raised in Newfoundland, Canada. Seen the Northern Lights once in my life. I know we are not that far up. Just above and to the right of New York. But that one time I was in Gros Morne Park and it was a magical night. Foxes came out of the woods to circle us. Realistically they were hunting, but as big humans didn't give a single fuck lol. We roasted hot dogs and bologna on the open fire. Green, yellow, blue, slight red streaks in the sky. It was nice relieved face. That's really rare to see. The red, I mean. Not the fried bologna. That's everywhere there. As an Icelander, I've probably heard this question more times than I've actually seen the Northern Lights. I visited Iceland last November and saw them all 3 nights I was there. Thought they were pretty common, their weather permitting. Green eyes make up just 2% of the global population. But like 40% of fictional characters lol. Large green eyes that seem to glow behind jet black hair. Stranger rape. Unfortunately, sexual assault is all too common, but the vast majority of it happens in a social context. Date. Rape. The kind where some maniac is hiding in an alley or a bush and jumps out to grab a total stranger. Is actually far less common. People say, carry your keys sticking through your fingers, or, the police should increase foot patrols, but those are a distraction from the much larger problem. Which will not be solved that way. I think it's because people want to try to blame the unacceptably high incidence of sexual assault on evil weirdos, rather than admitting it's a societal problem with the society that we are a part of. What is most disturbing is the number of rapes committed by family members. People want to believe it is a stranger because facing the fact it is someone you love makes it hard to trust anyone. My grandmother and 2 of her sisters all had a child out of wedlock in the 1940s. The story was always the guy married someone else when he came back from the war. My uncle never met his father. But in the end, she was saying things that didn't make sense. Near her death, she couldn't keep the story up as her memory was slipping. From what I pieced together, they were all 3 raped by their uncle who had been sent to live with them. The dad's younger brother. After all 3 were pregnant, their dad threw him out and never spoke to him again. I was able to piece out the story as the uncle's son had bits and pieces too. Heartbreaking and sad. Raped by someone they should have been able to trust. Too common. Stranger rapes are rare. My mother was raped then forced to marry her rapist, who continued to rape and beat her until after my brother was born. Small wonder she was depressed the rest of her life. The fun 40s. My grandmother was on drugs, so her 3 daughters lived with her mother. All 3 of them were raped by different older male family members who had also raped other female family members. My great-grandmother swept it all under the rug, because those were her sons. And those vile men were still allowed to be around the poor girls up until adulthood. The rapists being family members definitely makes it easier for them to get away with it. It pisses me off just thinking about it. Yeah, the scary part is that the average rapist or sex offender isn't some grotesque, hideous being lurking in the shadows that can't get consensual sex to save his or her life. It's usually a fairly attractive person, or at least decent looking, who showers daily, brushes their teeth, goes to their 9 to 5, is well liked by friends, family, and co-workers, who volunteers, who has interesting hobbies, etc. It's scary because that's a lot of people. How can you tell when one is going to try to rape you later? I think it comes from the misconception that people rape others because they want sex. Most of the time, they could easily find someone to have sex with them. They have money to pay for a prostitute. They are often attractive and could easily find a hookup. But that's not what they want. They want power over their victim. They feel inferior and need to prove that they are in control and have more power than the person they are hurting. People who remain friends with you once you leave school. You also find out who your real friends are when you leave a job. I don't think it's necessarily intentional when you don't hang with people you used to work with. Most adults are busy with day-to-day life. It simply takes too much bandwidth to keep up friendships as well. So we tend to have friends who slide easily into our routine. Once you don't work together and see each other all week, it's just too hard to maintain. It's not a personal knock on either person. On the same note, people should be able to come and go from our lives without putting too much weight on it. People in your life are seasons. Serial killers. I had a coworker who interacted with 2 of them. He grew up in Anchorage and used to buy donuts from Robert Hansen's bakery fairly routinely. Said to this day that man made the best apple fritters he'd ever eaten. And he drove city bus and swore he ran into Israel Keys a couple times downtown. My dad is convinced he bumped shoulders with Israel Keys outside a bar one time. Said that was singularly the scariest person he'd ever seen. Nothing to his eyes. Nothing going on in his face. Bob Hansen was an amazing baker, apparently. As far as Keys goes, he was an absolute maniac. Controlled, which is more terrifying than a loose cannon. If only they were always that obvious. I know someone who turned out to have killed 2 people. I don't think it counts as serial killer BC. They were both rather circumstantial occurrences. Not like a planned or patterned thing. But it shook my entire fucking world when it came out. I was dating him. Had been for many years. He was possibly the single most charismatic person I have ever met. The guy everyone felt comfortable confiding in and who was always available with his pickup truck to help anyone and everyone with whatever they needed. Nobody would have guessed it. Which is a shame because people are sick of reading the same recycled stories at work. We need new serial killers. I read an article suggesting the decline in the number of serial killers can be attributed to the increase in the number of people choosing to go on shooting sprees instead. Lazy and lame.